Just ahead on CTV News.
We now know how long a former county council member will serve in prison. I'm Katara Jones. I'll tell you who he is and how long his prison sentence will be coming up on CTV News.
The Prince George's County Police Department just released data that says that overall crime is down in the county. I'm Bryce Parker. We'll have more details coming up on CTV News.
And the Commanders are gearing up to take on the Eagles tonight. Those stories and more on CTV News starting now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for November 14th. I'm Mariah Jalad. Thanks for joining us. Well, former Prince George's County Council member Mel Franklin will spend a year in prison for a felony theft scheme and perjury. Franklin's sentencing took place in an Annapolis courtroom yesterday afternoon. CTV's Katara Jones is standing by outside the Wayne K. Curry Administration Building with more.
That's right. A judge hands down a one-year prison sentence for former county council member Mel Franklin. Franklin was charged with felony theft scheme and perjury for transferring funds from his campaign committee called Friends of Mel Franklin to his personal bank account. After he serves time in prison, he will then have to serve 3 years of probation. Franklin will also have to pay back the money he stole, which is more than $133,000 in restitution. The campaign money that Franklin took was spent on international trips, hotel rooms, cosmetic procedures for himself and a friend. He also turned in false campaign finance reports to the State Board of Elections. Franklin served the residents of District 9 from 2010 to 2018 and then was elected as an at-large member in 2018. He resigned from the county council last June after charges were filed against him. He will have to report to prison on November 29th. Katara Jones, CTV News.
And CTV spoke with Council Chair Jolene Ivey about how Mel Franklin's actions could affect Prince George's trust in the rest of the council.
Well, I hope they can look at us all as individuals and see us each for who we are, look at our records, look at our background, see how we behaved in the past. A lot of times that tells you how you're going to behave in the future. And I think that I don't have anything to worry about, but I will continue to do my best to keep my door open.
Ivey was just elected to replace Franklin as at-large council member. And as Democrats regroup after their election loss last week, former Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley is considering a run for chair of the Democratic National Committee. O'Malley is among several names being floated to replace Jamie Harrison, whose term ends in early 2025. According to Colum Okamartoon, a former O'Malley aide, key party leaders and activists have been urging O'Malley to take a shot at the DNC chair role. O'Malley currently heads the Social Security Administration, but his term wraps up in January, just days before Donald Trump is sworn in as president. And one person is in the hospital with life-threatening injuries after a shooting at the Addison Road Seat Pleasant Metro station. Metro police say a fight escalated into a deadly shooting around 9 last night. A group of 5 to 6 people were involved in the altercation before boarding a bus. The fight escalated and 90 seconds later spilled on to the bus bay at the station. A 20-year-old was shot and is in the hospital in critical condition, another with a broken arm. So far, no arrests have been made and the injured persons have not been identified. And the man who killed the son of a Prince George's detective has been sentenced to 55 years in prison. Kenneth Smith was convicted of first-degree murder in the stabbing death of Desmond Thomas. Prosecutors say Smith and his teenage stepson, Lamont Scott, attacked Thomas and a friend at a basketball court in October of 2023. The pair accused Thomas and his friend of interacting with Smith's daughter. Thomas had denied all claims. Smith and Scott shot at the friend, fatally stabbed Thomas, then got rid of evidence, including the firearm. Scott pled guilty to murder and was sentenced to 30 years. And more than 2 years after the U.S. Supreme Court's Bruen decision changed how courts evaluate Second Amendment cases, Maryland attorneys say it's causing confusion. The Maryland Daily Record reports that rulings are inconsistent even within the same court. For example, just this August, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit upheld Maryland's handgun licensing law. But only last year, the same court ruled it unconstitutional. And it's not just in Maryland. Courts are interpreting Bruen differently across the country. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Mariah Jalad. Coming up, the Chesapeake Bay hosts a diversity of marine life. After the break, we have more on the marine biologists who bring a new meaning of representation to the Bay.
I was a quarterback at Hardaway High School, college first-round draft pick. On and off the field, we were taught to not show any signs of weakness. During the football season, I would stop eating, but I didn't know I was depressed. I thought that something was wrong with me. For 20 plus years was physical. We didn't have any education behind what mental health was. I started to learn it starts here first. If this is together, I'll be better as a father, as a man, and as a husband. Put the importance on your mental health. I'm not scared to talk about it anymore. The first tool is therapy. The second one is positive self-talk. And then journaling, putting your thoughts on paper. We have to redefine what being a strong man is and heal, love your mind.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Well, the STI epidemic in the U.S. may be slowing after years of record increases. That's according to new CDC data. While cases of gonorrhea dropped 7% in 2023 and early-stage syphilis cases dropped 10%, overall STI rates remain high, with nearly 2.5 million reported infections last year. Congenital syphilis in newborns also showed signs of slowing, even though cases still increased by 3%. The epidemic has hit some groups harder, including Native American, Black, Hispanic, and LGBTQ+ populations. Factors like poverty, lack of insurance, limited access to care, and stigma contribute to these health disparities. And doctors are seeing a surge in requests for long-term birth control and permanent sterilization for women in the wake of the election, which has brought up concerns of a nationwide abortion ban. It's unclear what a second Donald Trump administration plans to do regarding contraception and birth control, with mixed messages from Trump himself during the campaign. But many patients do not want to take chances, opting to replace IUDs to restart the 3 to 12-year window they work in before the inauguration. Others are stocking up on emergency contraception and birth control through online companies and telehealth. And commuters on Route 1 in Prince George's County experienced some serious delays this morning. That was due to a water main break in the northbound lane just before Domer Avenue. Crews were repairing a 12-inch water main that impacts 13 businesses on the southeast side of Baltimore Avenue. After blocking off 2 lanes to allow for repairs, the water is back in service for those businesses impacted, and traffic flow returned back to normal this afternoon. In Prince George's County, crime has been an issue heavy on the minds of the community, but recent data suggests there may already be a solution. CTV's Bryce Parker has more.
The Prince George's County Police Department just released data that says that crime in the county overall is down 9% when compared to this time last year. And following an election season that saw local and national crime as a top issue amongst voters, the data also says that crime in the county over the past several months has seen a significant downtick as well. Crimes that have the largest year-to-date decreases include stolen vehicles and carjackings that are down more than 20%. Property crimes are down 12%, and homicides are down 5%. Also, when compared to where we were in July of 2024, carjackings, homicides, and assaults without a weapon have decreased over 10%, while domestic violence without a weapon has seen a whopping 25% decrease over that same time span. Although there were a lot of bright spots to report from the data, assault without a weapon and domestic violence without a weapon did see a year-to-date increase of above 10%. However, police are very optimistic that recent and year-end data will continue to trend in the right direction as community policing programs have helped to see the decrease in crime in the county this year. Reporting from police headquarters in Upper Marlboro, I'm Bryce Parker, CTV News.
Thanks, Bryce. And you can learn more about that recent crime data on the Prince George's County government website, mypgc.us/crimeinfo. And the University of Maryland student government failed to advance a resolution that called on the school system to withdraw investments from certain security, defense, and military companies. More than 400 students were present at last week's meeting, and student legislators heard an hour of testimony about the divestment resolution. The SGA general body voted to uphold an unfavorable report from its Civic Engagement and Governmental Affairs Committee, which prevented the resolution from reaching a final vote. If the resolution had passed, the SGA would have began lobbying the university system to divest from companies, quote, engaged in human rights violations, including Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman. And leaders from College Park and the University of Maryland are pushing for safer bike lanes along Route 1. The Diamondback is reporting College Park Mayor Fazlul Kabir, city council members, and student government leaders say adding protections like plastic bollards will improve safety for cyclists and pedestrians. On October 30th, the SGA passed a resolution calling for these protections on bike lanes from College Avenue to University Boulevard. The SGA plans to send the request to the Maryland State Highway Administration. And local organizations are teaming up to spotlight the often overlooked diversity within the field of marine science, aiming to bridge the gap between scientific discovery and the rich cultural history of Carr's Beach. Black in Marine Science, or BIMS, and the Blacks of the Chesapeake plan to combine environmental DNA with historical African-American storytelling.
That's why, BIMS was created, because we wanted to make sure that there was a space where we could accept one another and one another's work without scrutiny, without anyone questioning us, knowing and understanding that, what we bring to the table is going to make our work even more dynamic, even more exciting.
Can you imagine 70,000 people were here on the grounds at a Chuck Berry concert? Well, look at how many wedding bands fell in, how many quarters fell in, how many nickels fell in the water, in the sand.
And Blacks of the Chesapeake has received funding from multiple organizations to make this partnership possible. And for almost 2 decades, Maryland has proven to be a leader in greenhouse gas emission reduction. From 2005 to 2022, Maryland reduced its emissions by a greater percentage than any other state. Studies say in the 18-year span, the state was able to reduce its emissions by 36%. Many states, including Maryland, attribute reductions to the retirement of coal-fired power plants. 44 states and the district saw reductions over the same time period. However, 6 states saw increases, with North Dakota leading the pack. And still to come on CTV News, we are getting to know new members of the school board. After the break, we speak to District 1 winner Tiffany Adornful. Back in a moment.
Vision loss is not something that you feel until it happens.
Most people lose their vision from diseases like macular degeneration and glaucoma, not at birth.
With macular degeneration, you lose your central vision.
You have a blind spot right in the center of your face, so I can't actually see your face.
So even that little circle in which I could see
became a big blur.
I was 65 when I first was diagnosed with glaucoma.
There were no symptoms. I had no headaches.
3 million Americans have glaucoma, and half don't even know it.
11 million people in the United States have macular degeneration.
You lose mobility, independence, changes your entire life.
So many eye disorders can be treated if caught early.
My husband tells me that I have beautiful brown eyes, and I don't want to lose that.
Make a plan today to get your eyes checked.
Visit brightfocus.org to learn more.
Diversity is in our nature. It is in nature, too. Biodiversity. It connects us and sustains us. But nature's biodiversity is at risk more than ever before, and the future of all life is in our hands. So what will you do? Love it or lose it?
It is so hot out today, but I'm about to get this hike in, and I just had to show you the view. Beautiful.
Yo, you should come out here. We came outside to unwind.
Oh, wow.
Close the laptop. Transmission.
We outside, come find us.
Welcome back. While the presidential and Maryland U.S. Senate races dominated headlines, Prince George's County voters also decided on 5 Board of Education seats. Joining me in the studio to share her vision for the future of our county schools is one of those winners, Tiffany Anderfull, who will represent District 1, the seat vacated by David Murray. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So talk about your plans for this upcoming term when it comes to District 1.
Yeah, so first, I'm extremely honored to be able to serve in this role. It is a full circle moment for me, being a product of Prince George's County Public Schools. To start, in order to ensure that I'm actually creating plans and a vision for the county and specifically for my district that is rooted in what the community wants, I want to start there. So a large part of what I hope to do is to be able to authentically engage community. I want to seek forums, seek opportunities to meet with community members, teachers, stakeholders who have been doing work in the community long before I've returned back to this area, and also speak to students directly. I want to make sure that the plans that I have currently set out, or the things that I hope to be able to do, are actually in line with what they need. And so I'll start there. But some of the things I specifically want to be able to do, as a former teacher myself, I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to attract and retain the best possible, the best and high quality teachers for our county. It's extremely critical. The work of teachers is very, very difficult. It has only gotten more difficult following the pandemic. And so I want to make sure that we're also paying our teachers fairly and that we're providing them with the necessary support as they actually matriculate through their careers. There's a lot more that I also want to do in terms of making sure that we're getting the best resources, thinking about community partnerships and public and private partnerships to bring more resources to our schools and to our teachers. School safety is another area that I want to make sure that we are emphasizing and improving. And lastly, making sure that we're increasing awareness about both college and career opportunities for our students in the county.
And I know one of the plans in the state to attract and retain teachers, a lot of that has to do with the blueprint for Maryland's future. How has it been implementing that in your district, and do you have any recommendations for changes?
Great question. So whenever I'm asked about the blueprint, I always start with saying it is still very new. Right? And so this is very much in its earliest stages of implementation. And so I think it's too soon to really speak to whether or not it's been effective. However, what I can say is that what is actually named in the blueprint is a lot of work that we need to make sure that we are focusing on and prioritizing. I think that a lot of the work around making sure that we are improving access to early childhood education, making sure that we are emphasizing college and career opportunities for our students, as well as thinking a lot about how we can improve school safety. I think these are all things we should be focusing on, as well as a number of the other things mentioned in the blueprint. But again, I think it's too early to say right now whether or not it's been effective or not, but I think there have been a lot of steps that have been taken in the right direction.
All right. And this week we've been talking about the county council is putting forth a resolution to recommend that the that Prince George's County Public Schools ban cell phones in the classroom. That's something that we've seen implemented in Virginia and some other states, but it's up to the board to actually implement something like that. Would you be on board for a school cell phone ban?
Well, you know, when this issue was presented to me, as well as a number of others, of course, I thought about my experience, right, as a student. I understand, and now also as a parent, right? I have an 8-year-old son who's in elementary school who, while he does not have a cell phone, he would love to have one, and I'm sure will be asking me again quite soon. I understand why students would want to have cell phones. I think about parents wanting to ensure that their children are able to make calls if there are specific safety concerns or issues. However, as a former teacher, I also know that cell phones can be a distraction in the classroom. And so what I would want to do is think about, one, are there opportunities or ways that we can allow for students to have cell phones in the building, again, for specific safety measures, but perhaps there's a holding area where the cell phones can be kept to ensure that classroom time is not being disrupted. Something I'd be interested in exploring a bit more and hopefully be able to make a collaborative decision around that with the board members that I'll be serving with soon.
And when it comes to school safety, are there any specific things that you want to implement going forward?
Yeah, another great question. So I'll be honest. What I know right now is that there are a number of measures that have been put in place, including, for example, at the high school level, making sure that clear backpacks, right, are mandatory, and a lot of schools ensuring that we have metal detectors. I want to do a little bit more to learn about what other measures have been put into place, what specific experiences or outcomes have influenced those decisions, and before I actually speak to what I think additional measures should be, I have ideas, but again, I'm very much rooted in making sure that decisions that I'm putting forth or suggestions that I'm putting forth are rooted in actual experiences of those who experience these things on a day-to-day basis.
And you have experience as a teacher. What do you think having that experience brings that's unique to your place on the school board?
Yeah, well, I think knowing firsthand what it's like to be in a classroom with students, knowing firsthand what it's like to be in a classroom with 9th graders, some of whom actually were reading on a 3rd grade level, right? Knowing what it's like to be in a classroom where you are needing to differentiate instruction and curriculum to meet the needs of all of your students when perhaps you have limited resources. Knowing what it's like to not actually have resources in my school building to even be able to make copies on a printer and having to use my own funds to go to Staples just to make sure that I am delivering material to students in the best way that I can. It's challenging work, right? And so I bring that perspective to my role. But again, knowing that it's very, very critical that in any decisions that we're making, we are asking teachers and school leaders directly because they're the ones on the front lines. They're the ones who know what the day-to-day challenges are. And so that's the perspective that I'd be able to bring.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me again.
Thank you. Tiffany Anderful and her fellow elected school board members are set to be sworn in at the Sasser Administration Building on December 2nd at 5:30 p.m. And after the break, Simon Buggs has our Thursday sports page, and he's talking Commanders football. Don't move.
More than 6 million kids in the U.S. have ADHD. Many aren't getting the support they need. At understood.org, we can help. Sometimes in class, the only thing your child can focus on are the thoughts racing through their head.
Why can't I just pay attention? Why am I always falling behind? Why do I feel so alone? So different.
Your child is looking to you for answers, to help them make sense of it all. But as a parent, you probably have a lot of questions too. What should I do next? Where do I even start? At understood.org, we provide parents with the resources they need to help kids with ADHD thrive. Your child wants to thrive. Be the reason they do.
Hey there, sports fans, it's time for your favorite segment. Let's go.
An NFC East showdown will be taking place tonight as my Washington Commanders will be in the city of brotherly love to face off against the Philadelphia Eagles. This will be one of the team's toughest games this year as Philly is playing some great ball as they are in first place in the division at 7-2. A big reason for the Birds' great start to the season is their defense, as they are ranked 3rd in passing, 5th in rush defense, and 2nd in total defense. And head coach Dan Quinn touched on what specifically makes Philly such a good defensive unit.
For their defense, I thought their 5 down fronts, the 4 down fronts, I thought the safeties down when they're back, the disguise. I thought Coach Fangio does a very good job and has for a long time, Kendi, into that space. I love the aggressiveness of their corners, playing tight coverage onto people. So there'll be a lot of contested throws and contested throws and catches. The interior part of their guys, big guys with size and guys that can rip off the edge. So a good challenge that way.
Kickoff is at 8:15. Hopefully we can get the dub tonight, y'all. Meanwhile, the Terps women's basketball squad welcomes some top 100 ranked freshmen to the team next fall as head coach Brendan Freed has signed 2 recruits in guards Addie Mack and Rainey Wilson. Mack, who's a 4-star recruit, has built up quite a resume in her home state of Minnesota. Mack is currently number 7 on the all-time scoring list in Minnesota girls basketball history, is a 4-time Minnesota All-State team honoree, led her high school Minnehaha Academy to 4 state girls basketball third place championships, and is ranked as the number 2 player in the state of Minnesota. She is also the number 1 active career leader in scoring across the country. And Wilson has accomplished plenty over in Wisconsin. She helped their high school team, the Hortonville Polar Bears, to 2 conference championships, is a 3-time first-team all-conference member, and a 2-time all-defensive honoree as well. She is also Hortonville's all-time leading scorer. Man, it's going to be exciting to see what these 2 do in a Terps jersey. Now to the world of hockey, the Washington Capitals shook up their roster as they recently traded for forward Lars Ellers. Ellers previously played for the Pittsburgh Penguins before coming to the nation's capital. Washington sent a 3rd-round pick in the 2027 draft and a 5th-round pick in the 2025 draft to Pittsburgh to acquire the Danish player. So far this season for the Penguins, Ellers recorded 4 goals and 3 assists in 17 games. He also has won 56% of his faceoffs and averaged a little over 16 minutes of ice time per game. This will be a reunion for Ellers as he is suited up for the Caps from 2016 to 2023. And wrapping up sports, the Washington Wizards fell to the San Antonio Spurs last night, losing 139-130 thanks to a dominant 50-point performance from Spurs forward Victor Wembanyama. The team will travel to Atlanta to take on the Hawks next in the league's in-season tournament tomorrow at 7:30. The Terps women's basketball squad took the court last night also, and they'll be coming back to College Park with the win as they took down Syracuse 84-73. Good job, ladies. The team is now 4-0 and will match up next against Towson on Sunday.
So going back to football, Simon, what are you looking forward to seeing in tonight's matchup?
Well, Mariah, it's definitely going to be a tough matchup. There's 2 things I want to see if we can beat Philly tonight. One thing is Philly has a very explosive offense, and I feel like in order to counteract that, we have to do a good job of keeping them off the field. And one way to do that is to run the ball, eat up a lot of that clock, and keep that defense keep that offense off the field. And from a defensive perspective, when Philly's offense is on the field, I don't really trust our secondary to really hold up. They have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, 2 very elite receivers. So I feel like our defensive line has to do a good job of generating pressure on Jalen Hurts, their quarterback. And I feel like we can do that. We're top 10 in the league in total sacks. So we do a good job getting after the quarterback. We'll see. I won't lie. I'm real nervous about tonight, but if you can do those 2 things, I think we'll have a shot at beating Philly tonight. So we'll see what happens.
I hope to see a smile on your face tomorrow morning. That'll let me know. All right. Now we're going to take a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, rain and fog is expected, so please be safe on the roads. Tomorrow, those showers are sticking around until about 7 a.m. We'll have a high of 56. Saturday, we'll have clear skies. It's going to be 62 degrees. Sunday, mostly sunny. Expect a high of 63 and low of 44. And for our community calendar, starting tomorrow, ICE returns to the Gaylord National for the holiday season. This year, a Charlie Brown Christmas was brought to life by a team of 40 ICE artisans to create a nearly 20,000 square foot frozen attraction. The ICE display will be up through December 27th, but tune into CTV News tomorrow for a preview. For more information, contact 301-965-4000. And that wraps up CTV News for now. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Good luck, Washington.